Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. I'm going to talk today about another article in The Guardian. They're running some quite amazing articles lately, and this one is written by somebody called Helen Pidd and Rajiv Sayal, and it's in Wednesday's Guardian, and it's talking about the recruitment of prison staff, and saying, and it's quite... it just shows how the whole system has been allowed to deteriorate. Because apparently, according to this article, and you can see it online, by the way, it's on Yahoo News, and it's headed "Criminal Gangs in UK Sending Recruits to Train as Prison Officers. Union Warns." What's apparently happening is that criminal gangs who have got members inside the prisons serving as inmates on sentences for drug smuggling, violence, whatever it is, they're sending their unconvicted members to join the prison service as prison officers, specifically to set up drug smuggling into prisons. Imagine that. I mean, and also, believe this or not, the recruitment and very often the training is done online from people's homes. If we go back in time, I mean, it's no good talk, we can't turn the clock back, but back in time it was to be extremely difficult to get into the prison service. They would research not only yourself and every single job that you'd ever had, because they required references from those jobs, seriously, all the way back. And they didn't just research you, they researched your parents, your siblings, the whole lot. They wanted to know if you would come from a criminal background. Nowadays, if you don't come from a criminal background, well, they'd be surprised. There's that many out there. And the problem that they've got, now listen to it, this is beggars belief, but this is a very good articles that are coming up in The Guardian about prisons, and they've quite obviously identified that this thing is in virtual free fall. It isn't getting any better. Not now, and certainly not for a great deal of time, yeah? They're saying in their articles that basically what's happening with the prisons is that the staff they lose 25% of the staff every year, and that there are no long-term staff, or virtually no long-term staff in the prisons to actually teach the newly recruited prison officers how to actually run the system. And the system doesn't run because there isn't sufficient staff to allow it to function properly. So basically, it's a very poorly committed warehouse for criminally orientated human beings. Also, they're saying that a lot of the inmates are very out of it on a drug that they call spice. Now, I've no experience of taking spice, working with people who are influenced with spice, but from what they're saying, it sounds like a totally terrifying result that people are having once they've taken this drug, that they become almost crazed, zombie-like individuals who are running amok. And of course, it's been identified that adult male prisoners now are becoming a great deal larger than they used to be. And they reckon that this is down to taking, steroids and various other things. It's because they'll be building themselves up. But it doesn't matter how big you are. If you don't know how to deal with it, then it's like getting onto a 650cc Triumph Bonneville motorbike when you can't drive. You rev it up, next thing you know, you're in a ditch. So if you can't handle it, It don't matter how powerful you is, and most of them can't handle it, in my experience. So they're also discussing the training of prison staff. Said it used to be, when I was in, it was 12 weeks. You went away on a residential course for 12 weeks. Mine was at a place called Lay Hill, near Bristol, where they had a big old house that they used as the base. That was your accommodation. Nowadays, doing a lot of training from home and a training in to the prisons. One of the reasons that is being given for the failure of the prisons to actually retain staff is that the newly recruited 18-year-old ladies that they've got in there working on the hostess program. Listen, I'm not a misogynist. I believe that they're very brave to actually go in there and do it. But at places like HMP Berwyn, they lost 18 female prison officers in 1 year, 38 prison officers in 2 years, and a considerable number of them, were prosecuted and subsequently imprisoned for having inappropriate relationships with male inmates. I mean, anybody who is with the Ministry of Justice or the Home Office, who's in a senior position there, we're talking above governor grade here, we're talking about cabinet ministers. Listen to this. If you put young females in there with experienced, hardened criminals who are sophisticated individuals, by the way, they're not complete knobheads, just because they've got themselves banged up in prison. Some of them are extremely intelligent. They will twist these people around the little fingers, and they're also extremely vulnerable. They can't physically defend themselves against the attacks, and I know that they're being issued with pepper spray, and they probably even got tasers. I don't know at the moment, but they're just no match for the actual sophistication of some of these diabolical prisoners who will have groups of people to defend them. So they will be manipulated and required to conform to the requirements of the particular gang leader that they come across. And that's what's happening in the prisons at the moment. They're running in gangs. It's descending into the kind of regimes that pertain in America, and nobody is doing anything about this. Now, apparently the starting salary for prison staff has gone up to 30,000, so they say, which is reasonable unless you live in Surrey or Kent or Greater London, because that won't rent you a flat. You can't rent a flat for that. I know, I've been there. When I worked at the Scrubs, I went to try and rent a one-bedroom flat just for me and my wife, because we didn't have any children at the time. And I went into the estate agent and said, I'd like to have a look at renting a flat. All right. So where do you work? I said, I'm a prison officer at Wormwood Scrubs. I said, well, you won't have enough money to rent a single room, never mind a flat. Seriously. That was all my wages from the Scrubs. If I used all my wages, it was insufficient to get me a one-bedroom flat in London. And it won't have changed now. Seriously. So, and of course, these young hostesses that they're recruiting, they want to use their mobile phones, because they can't use their mobile phones when they're on duty. The whole thing is in serious decline, and they're going to have to do something about it. I suggest that they set up a proper think tank, get some people who know what they're talking about, people who have got some experience, and don't listen to the psychologists and the psychiatrists, and it's just pointless, because they're not going to get their hands onto these inmates when they're fighting on the landings, are they? You need to talk to the people who are at the sharp end, because you're losing staff. Apparently, according to this article in the Guardian yesterday, 47% of all staff resign within the first 3 years. 47%. I mean, when I joined, I don't keep going back to that. It was a job for life. What you did, that was your career. You decided on that career and you stuck with it. They're also experiencing difficulties in losing prison officers to the border force, and the police. That's another shining example of the success that this woke society has got, isn't it? The police. Over 1,000 serving police officers are currently suspended pending investigation for serious crimes in the Metropolitan Police. 1,000. It's unheard of. Don't know what they're doing. The world's gone mad. Anyway, that's today's Tales from the Jails. There we go. That's a song dinger, folks. Katie, you've heard that. Time to go and climb a tree, Katie. I'm going to sing to you today. I played an album yesterday. I hadn't heard it for a long time. I've set a record player up in my summer house outside. I hadn't heard this album for 30, 40 years perhaps. It was by that pervert who likes little girls, PJ Proby. But he had a great voice, So anyway, I listened to that. It was called PJ Proby in Town. If he's in your town, then you guess what he's looking for. Lock up your daughters. Anyway, this is a song from that album. It's called, it's one of the albums that Proby recorded. It's The Nearness of You. Are you ready? Are you sitting comfortably? I rang the dinger, yeah. It isn't your sweet conversation that brings this sensation. Oh no, it's the nearness of you. And when you're in my arms, and I feel you so close to me, all my wildest dreams come true. I need no soft lights to enchant me, if you'll only grant me the right to hold you ever so tight, and I feel in the night the nearness of you. Larry doesn't. Larry the goatherd from Rotherham. He's searching for the goats. They not tend to be very still in the night, do they, Larry? Anyway, there we are, folks. Tales from the Jails. Hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to like and subscribe and have a look at my book on Amazon.